Hey, so we've all seen AI do some pretty incredible things, right? From writing code to creating stunning art. But what if an AI could do something, well, something deeper? What if it could actually learn how to get better at learning itself? That's exactly what we're diving into today. This amazing new frontier where an AI doesn't just learn a task, it learns how to learn. So, this is the big question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing for an AI to master a specific skill you give it, but can it actually improve its own fundamental ability to learn new things all by itself without a single line of its core code being rewritten? Well, the answer seems to be a resounding yes, and all thanks to a wild phenomenon called meta-in-context learning. All right, so to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to break it down. We'll start with how AI learning usually works, and then we'll get into this new kind of meta level of learning. Let's start with the basics. Okay, so you've probably done this without even realizing it. It's called in-context learning. It's when you give a large language model, a few examples of what you want. Let's say you show it how to turn a few sentences into questions. It sees the pattern and just gets it. But here's the key. It's only learning for that one single isolated task. But this is where things get really mind-bending. Meta-in-context learning is the next level up. This is when the AI, after going through several different tasks, starts to get better at the actual process of learning. It's not just learning the answer to a problem, it's learning how to become a better student for all the problems it hasn't even seen yet. So, here's a simple way to think about it. In-context learning is like studying for one specific test. Everything you learn is for that one test, inside that one box. But meta-in-context learning, that's when the AI starts connecting the dots between all the different boxes. It carries wisdom from one challenge over to the next, and in doing so, it refines its whole approach to learning. Now, I know this might be sounding a little like science fiction, but it's not. Researchers have actually watched this happen in real time. They designed some really clever experiments to see if a big model like GPT-3 could genuinely teach itself to be a better learner. So for the first test, they went back to basics, a simple math problem. The researchers wanted to see if they could get GPT-3 to predict the output of a linear function. Think back to high school algebra, that classic y equals ax plus b. So here's how they set it up. They took GPT-3 and just fed it a series of these simple math problems. But here was the trick. For the first 5 tasks they gave it, every single function had a negative slope. They were basically secretly teaching the AI to expect a certain kind of pattern. The big question was, would the AI actually pick up on that hidden clue? And wow, the results were stunning. On that very first task, the AI's guesses were kind of all over the place, a really high error rate. But by the time it got to the 5th task, its prediction error had totally plummeted. It had learned from the pattern. It updated its own internal starting assumptions, what scientists call its priors, and it got way, way better at the job. Okay, the next experiment was a lot more complex. They used this classic challenge called the two-armed bandit. Just imagine, you're in a casino with 2 slot machines. You've got to figure out which one has the better payout. But you have to do this over and over in a whole series of different casinos, and each one has its own secret payout rules. Check out this number. It's just staggering. At the very beginning, the AI was wildly optimistic. It guessed the potential reward was somewhere around 545. But after learning from experience, after playing the game for a while, its expectation dropped to a much, much more realistic 6.5. It literally learned to manage its expectations based on what was actually happening. And get this, it wasn't just its beliefs that changed, its entire strategy for playing the game evolved. At first, the AI was really cautious, trying to avoid any uncertain outcomes. But as it learned, it completely switched gears to a much more aggressive and frankly more effective strategy called greedy exploitation. It just went all in on maximizing rewards. It taught itself to be a smarter gambler. So we've seen that it works, which is amazing. But the real billion-dollar question is, how? What in the world is actually happening inside that neural network that allows an AI to upgrade its own learning software while it's running? Well, the researchers figured out there are 3 key things going on. First, it adapts its priors. Just like in that math test, it changes its starting guess based on what it's seeing. Second, its actual decision-making algorithm evolves, like switching from cautious to greedy in the casino test. And third, it learns to spot similarities between tasks so it can use what it learned in the past to get a huge head start on the future.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. An AI that can improve its own learning process, that is a really, really big deal. What does this actually mean for the future of artificial intelligence and, for how we're all going to use it?
Turns out there are three huge implications here. First, this could mean way less pressure on us to write the perfect prompt, because the AI can learn what we're after over a few tries. Second, this points to a future where AIs adapt just through conversation, not through these massive, expensive, time-consuming retraining sessions. And finally, and this is the big one, it suggests these models are doing something that looks a lot like a sophisticated type of reasoning called Bayesian inference, which is basically just a fancy way of saying they update their beliefs based on new evidence. The same thing we humans do all the time.
And this quote from the research summary just nails it. The idea that an AI can recursively improve itself, that it can get better at getting better, all without anyone touching its code, is just a massive shift in how we think about these things. Now, we have to be realistic. There is one big catch, at least for now. This incredible ability is limited by the AI's context window. You can think of that like its short-term memory. It can only remember and learn from the last few things it saw. And that means, right now, this meta-learning thing only really works with smaller chunks of data that can fit inside that memory window. But even with that limitation, it leaves us with this incredible, mind-boggling question. We are literally watching an AI that doesn't just do tasks, but actively makes itself smarter at learning new things. So if an AI can teach itself how to learn, what on earth is the next frontier? What's even possible?